Hello, today I want to have a look at a Sony cassette deck. This is a cassette deck from the mid-90s, mid-late 90s, I believe. Um, it's quite large. It's part of the Sony ES series. I believe it was part of the last of the Sony ES more high-end um, series of hi-fi equipment. The model number here is TC-KA3ES. It's not the top model. There are a 5ES and a 7ES, but it is part of their high-end series. I just picked it up recently. Supposedly it's not working, but we'll have a look at that and see if it's just because they were not able to test it or it's actually not working. What typically happens to these old cassette decks is that there will be some belts inside that tends to deteriorate over time, and they will have to be replaced. That's likely what's wrong with it. It powers up. We can try it here. Yeah, the display looks nice. There's light in here. But if we try to hit the open button, nothing happens. Play, nothing. It does react to button presses, so most likely the microcontroller is running and the electronics is probably okay, so it kind of indicates that it's probably a belt that needs to be replaced. Anyway, I'll try to take it apart. So the screws kind of look like they haven't been tampered with, but it's hard to say. I hope no one's been inside it before, because it could be maybe someone has been tampering with it, and it will make it more difficult to repair. Anyway, let me get the cover off and then we'll take a look inside. Okay, I got the cover off and you can see the fairly large casing is pretty much full of circuit boards everywhere. I did notice the screws were slightly loose, so probably someone have had this open before. Anyway, let's have a closer look at what it looks like inside. So quite a lot of electrolytic capacitors, but they all appear to be high quality name brand capacitors. So you can get a name here. Yeah, that's an Elna, and I believe the brown ones over here are Nichicon. The green ones are definitely Nichicon, and I think it's pretty much brand name capacitors all throughout the product. So that's quite nice. It looks very well made. It's very sturdy. The top cover was held on place by 10 screws. So you think these bars would not be necessary, but well, they are there. When I look into hi-fi equipment like this, I always think like it must be easier if they could just make it on one PCB and maybe make it double-sided, but of course the engineers who designed this know a lot more about it than I do. The whole production, and when you have to produce like millions of the same product, and maybe they reuse some of the boards in multiple products, and well, I can think of many things, and probably the reason they use single-sided boards instead of dual or multi-layer boards is probably because of the wave soldering process. It's probably also the reason they kept using they didn't move to surface mount components. They kept using through holes for quite a long time. See, there's some plug-in boards here. They are fully surface mount. So I believe these are part of the Dolby S circuitry. So this is one of the features of this deck here, that it got both Dolby B, Dolby C, and Dolby S. Dolby S was the very last tape noise reduction circuit design from Dolby, and I believe they were able to achieve a signal to noise ratio as much as like 75-80 dB or something like that, which is quite good for these small tapes. Anyway, over here we have the tape deck. These are always very complicated and often very complicated to take apart. So we can see there's the dual capstan. So this is a direct drive motor for the capstan. There's this one motor, and then the second one is just driven by the belt here. This belt appears to be okay, but it's probably stretched and probably needs to be replaced. You can see there's a little bit of residue in there. Maybe it's already been replaced, not sure, but it looks like it needs some cleaning up, and this belt, it feels very loose, so it probably could do with some cleaning. But that's probably not the problem from this deck. So we got two more motors up here, and don't know if you can see it, but if you look from the side here, you can kind of see that just in here there's a belt missing, completely gone. So I don't know if it was already taken out, or it's laying inside somewhere. Maybe it totally broke, but definitely that would explain both the sound of a freely spinning motor and that it's not able to do anything. So the next step is going to be to get the whole cassette deck mechanism out, so you have a closer look at it. The goal is going to have to be to take as little apart as possible, because they are very complicated, and if you take them apart too much, you risk you have to do a lot of alignment work afterwards. I would like to avoid that if possible. So I'll try to get a screwdriver and see. It looks like there's some screws here, and I think there's some screws on the bottom as well. Maybe these screws over here, and I think it's held in place at the bottom as well. So I don't know if it's going to be possible to take it out, because I cannot open it right now. So I might need to find a way to open the deck before, so I can take this front plate off here before I can get the mechanism out. So let me try to do that and see how it goes. So I had a look in the service manual on the correct way of removing the tape deck mechanism here, but it pretty much describes all the steps here, and they say you have to take everything apart, including taking the front plate off and everything. I would like to avoid that, so I'm gonna try see if it's possible to get it out without taking everything to pieces. So I'll have a go at that. Okay, so the easiest way to get the tape mechanism out without taking everything apart, like described in the service manual, is first remove this cross bar here, take that off, and then you have two black screws here. I already removed one. There's one over here as well. Remove those, and then go on the bottom. Just move it up here. Two screws in these two holes here on the bottom, and that seems to be enough to release the whole mechanism. So of course the problem is with the front here, because that's not going to go inside. However, once you get it loose, just unscrew this. There we go. So now you can see the whole mechanism is loose here, and it gives us a little bit space in the front here, and you can simply take this off from the front. It's a little bit hard holding the camera while I do it, but you don't have to take anything apart. You can just kind of lift it up and pull it out. You can see there's some hinges here, so just lift it up, pull it out. Quite simple. So I need to take some pictures of all the cables. There are quite a few things connected to the tape mechanism here. I'll try and mark it up and take some pictures of it. Okay, so we are back at the tape deck. I got the mechanism completely out, and it's actually very simple. The cable's no problem. There are 3 connectors here. They're all different sizes, nothing can go wrong there. Then we have 3, one for each of the heads, so it's gonna be like playback, record, and erase head. And because of the different lengths of the cable, nothing can be done wrong when reconnecting it. I picked up some new belts as well. It seems like this tape deck mechanism is the same that's used in pretty much all the ES series, and so series 3, 5, 7, and also the previous generation. I think they were called like 333, 555, and 777 or something like that. They all use the same mechanism, or there might be some very tiny differences, but really nothing major. So now I just need to figure out how to take it apart as little as possible. One thing I noticed when I took it out here is that the old belt is actually in there. Don't know if you can see it, but let me try and get some tweezers here and see if we can kind of pull it out. Oh, I think that indicates that no one has actually been inside this deck, but you can see it's completely weird. It's gone, turning into goo, and that's of course why it stopped working. So explains the problem. So however, it's not going to be easy to get a new belt in there. I hope it's possible to just pry it apart enough that can get the new belt in there without having to remove everything. But I think I do need to take off the front here, but I think that's fairly simple. I had a look at the service manual again, and it looks like there's a small, this one can be removed here. There's like a small lock washer on this side. Remove this, remove the spring over here and this small plate, and then it should be possible to take the whole front off, and it should give us a little bit better access to some of the parts, because I need to have a look at the heads as well. And we have the two capstan, one there and one over there, and then we have these pinch rollers. We need to have a look at those. They're nice, and they should be nice and clean, so they can the tape is not going to be slipping. So we need to look at that. We need to look at the heads and see if there's any wear on them, what condition they're in. Okay, so I'll attempt to move the front here, and I think we can start over here. So there's a small lock washer on here. I think it's just a piece of plastic. yeah, it can just be gently lifted off, and I believe this thing can be pulled out. So let's not lose that. And then we have this spring here. We need to get that out. I think I need some tools. It's not super strong, so it's fairly easy. There we go. So everything is covered in lithium grease. This white stuff here, white lithium grease. I do have some new grease. We can see if it's necessary to apply, but generally lithium grease tends not to gunk up. It's not like normal grease. It doesn't get hard, and at least not in the same way normal grease does. So let's try to remove this here. And it's still locked. Okay, there we go. So I believe it should be possible, only have to be a little bit careful. I don't want to put too much pressure on anything and make any permanent damage here. Yeah, there we go. So then the whole front here comes off. Fairly simple, straightforward. This is where it's this kind of mechanism that squeezes in on the cassette tape itself and prevents it from vibrating. Put this aside. Not lose this little lock thing here. Okay, so I think the next step is to get this plate off here, so it doesn't really do anything. It's just kind of a cover plate for what is behind. So, but now we can start taking a look at the heads. Kind of look okay from what I can see. The pinch rollers, yeah, they do have a little bit of markings on them. Pretty sure they could do with some cleaning. They don't look very clean. Actually looks quite dirty. They might never have been cleaned before. They still feel kind of rubbery, so probably not need to replace them. At least I will try without replacing them. But it doesn't look like the heads have any extreme wear of them. Just need some magnification, then I can take a close look at them. So yeah, I'm just gonna use like a small loop here. I don't think I can share it with you. Looks, the heads look pretty good. There are no deep scratches or wear or anything like that. So they're just a little bit shiny on top, that's it. Okay, I'll just go ahead and take this off here. I might just speed this up a little bit. Okay, so there's including a small light here behind and a wire that goes all the way back here, so I'm just going to disconnect that and just put the screws in here, so whoops, so I'm not going to lose them or get them wrong. Okay, so according to the service manual, in order to take the back off, you need to remove the pinch rollers and everything here, right? But I would really like to not do that, because if we remove this pinch roller, we will have to do realignment, and it's gonna be tricky. So this roller here is a little bit dirty. It's got some gunk stuck on it. As the next step, I'm going to start taking it apart from the back. So let's just get some of these cables out of the way here. Wrong way. Okay, some circle here. I'm not sure exactly what it does. Let's see. Crystal here is probably to maintain as we control for the capstan motors. I guess I'm just guessing. Just put these screws back in here. Just many different types of screws, different sizes. Okay. So here we have the whole motor section for the capstan. And these are the small bearings. Very nice. So leave that over here. We can get the first belt out. It doesn't feel too stretchy. It was a little bit loose. It's possible it's been replaced. Let's compare the size with the new belt. It's a bit more stretched. It's certainly a little bit longer. So anyway, just replace it, and it kind of feels very different. Okay, so I think we can remove the capstans completely. They're just these kind of small washers on here. They're slightly tight, but not really tight. We can just kind of squeeze them off. Okay. Let's put that in there. So it's just kind of a sleeve bearing inside here. And the same with the other one. Right. See, there's like a small feedback board for the motor. So to get in here, I think we somehow need this to move out a little bit, this portion here, and then it might be possible to move this small board here enough that we can squeeze in a new belt. I'm gonna try it anyway, see what happens. Take this out here. So here we're starting to work close to the head, so really we should be careful not to use magnetic screwdrivers, but I guess it's not too bad. This is not strong magnetic, this one. Okay. Just to see if these are same length. Yeah, they look the same. Okay. See if that helps anything. Oh, it does can move things a little bit here, so I guess if we can get this plate loosened a little bit, we might be able to get in there. So I need a smaller screwdriver. Yeah, it's gonna be hard to show everything. My big hands in the way. I think it's very close. The same length, yeah. Oops, that one is longer. Okay, you can see we can kind of start. I don't know if you can see that, but we can kind of start to. We could probably squeeze the belt in there. I think that's possible. Let's see if we can get the old belt out. Yeah. So it should be possible to squeeze the new belt in there. This is completely, it's gone weird. It's like very close to the stage where it just turns into goo. I think the only problem might be that since we're going to touch some of the gears here, we might get a little bit of grease on the belt. That's not ideal. We'll see if we can perhaps clean it off later with some alcohol if it becomes a problem, if the belt starts slipping. So I'm gonna try to gently see if I can put a new belt in there. Oops, yeah. Step one. We need to get it between the two gears here. It's a tricky part. Yeah, it is possible. Okay, so we don't want to get too much grease on it. Okay, I think the belt has been successfully attached. So now I'll just screw these back in again. Okay, long one over here. So yeah, it's very tricky to get the belt in here to sit correctly, but a little bit of patience and just taking the time that it is successful. It's probably still a lot faster than taking the rest of the mechanism apart, with the risk that you have to realign everything afterwards. So I think we can get away with that like this because everything is just going to be the same. Have to be careful with this one because it actually goes under there. Okay, we need these screws back in. Just tighten all this up again and pretty much just reassemble everything, and we will try to connect it up to the rest of the tape deck and see if it starts functioning again. I mean, there might be other problems. This is tricky because it's not magnetic. But we cannot use magnetic screwdrivers. You don't want to make the head or anything here magnetic. It can ruin your tapes. We should really demagnetize it anyway. I'll see. I think I got a demagnetizer somewhere. We can have a look at that after. I have a Q-tip with a bit of alcohol, so I will just do some cleaning here. Should be possible to get all this gunk off. It's probably not very interesting, so I'm just gonna skip past this. Okay, so I'll clean up the wheels here, flywheels and the capstan motor, and you can see my Q-tips here got quite dirty. At the same time, I just cleaned the heads as well and the pinch rollers because they're easy to get to while the capstans are out. So now we just assemble it with a new belt, and we should be ready to put everything back together pretty soon. Get this in here. The new belt, the old belt. You can see there's quite a size difference. The old belt has clearly been stretched over time. Okay. Yeah, it's a little bit tighter. Then we need the back piece here. Windings and the bearings and motor controller. These are probably small hole elements or something to give some feedback. But everything looks good. These small capacitors here, I don't see anything wrong with them, but they don't seem to be leaking, so we'll leave them alone. Okay, need these screws. I have to remember this one over here had the cable tie thing on it. Won't tighten it up too much just yet. Okay. So yes, this is running quite nice. So one thing worth noticing is these little plastic spaces. So the one with the motor got 2 on it for some reason. Don't know what the reason is. And the other one just got a single. Don't know if that's the right one. Like this. And shiny one, get one here. So I think need to just lightly clean these again, because there's probably a little bit of oil inside the sleeve bearing. So these are probably a little bit oiled up now, so it's good to take some alcohol and just clean them off one more time. Okay. Okay, just tighten it up back here. And just make sure these are tight. Okay. We need our little circuit board back in there. See if I can figure out, put it the right way around. Yeah, I believe it's like this. So I think, is that ground wire? I'll have to go back and look, as I don't remember. I think it went here, but I have to double check. We'll just put it here for now. Okay. Plug all these little plugs in again. Went up here. And this one went around like this. There we go. And then we have all our cables kind of nicely tied up around here like that. Yep. So in theory we should be very close to having a working deck here again. There could be issues with these contacts here, but I'm not gonna do anything with them right now. I'm just gonna assume they work. So this is to detect the tape type and whether they're right protected or not. So you have your standard tape and your chrome and your metal. Okay. Put a little cover plate back here. Oops. There you go. I think it's too big. Okay. Let's tighten it. No need to over tighten anything in here. This is plastic, it's just gonna break. Is this over here? Okay. And this little lock ring here goes on top. little bit tricky. There we go. Clicks in place. Okay, and then I believe this clicks in place here, yes. And we need this thing here. Believe that's the right way around. Spring, I seem to remember it was this way around. Might be wrong. Okay, it seems to fit quite nicely in there. Let's see if I can. Yeah. Kind of seems to fit okay. So I think it's time to try it. Just connect it to the cassette deck and see what happens. Hopefully it's not going to make strange noises and break everything. We'll see. Okay, so I have just loosely put the mechanism back in place here. Just with a couple of screws. I plugged in the 3 cables here and the other 3 cables over here on the board, and we'll try power it up and see what happens. Okay, going to switch on the power and see what happens. Nothing. Made a slight sound and then nothing else happened. Let's try the eject. Hey, there we go. And close again. Yeah, it looks good. Very nice. We can probably see that motor is spinning correctly now. Yeah. So, and we can see the capstan motor is already running down there. It's completely silent. So I'll just put in the rest of the screws and secure it, and then we'll try to put a tape in it and see if it actually makes any sound, because there could be more problems with it, we don't know. Okay, so we got everything put back together here. Time to try put a tape in and see what happens. So I've hooked up a really tiny speaker here. So it's one of those Bluetooth speakers, but it's also got a line in. It's quite nice just for testing. Equipment with line output to see if some sound actually is coming out. It's not going to give amazing sound quality or anything like that. Anyway, let's put a tape in, see if things are actually working. So I have a lovely MTV Party Zone 2 tape here, and that's the one we're going to be testing, if that's what's inside. Yep, MTV Party Zone 2, and it looks like it comes with Dolby, so usually that would be Dolby V, but let's try to close that and see, so we can put Dolby B on here. Detect tape type 1, Dolby B, and we're gonna hit play. So I think we're in the middle of the tapes. I really don't know what song is gonna start playing. Yep. We definitely got some music here. Let's see if we can maybe do a quick forward search here. Yep, that seemed to be working. Don't know if you can hear that, but a very small speaker, not really good sound quality. But definitely something is working here. So I would say this is a success. So one thing, just gonna stop it before we get a copyright strike. One thing to say is that, well, we still need to check whether the calibration is okay, whether the speed is okay, whether it's running okay. I need to have a look at the manual, how, because it's got this calibration feature here. I think that's quite clever, where based on the tape type, it's automatically going to set the bias and some equalization of the treble and stuff like that, recording level. But it's got some kind of built-in test where it will actually record 3 tones, and it will go through a procedure where you have some different indicators here, and then you can fine adjust these 3 controls here to get pretty much what would be ideal for the tape you're using before you start recording anything. So it's quite an interesting feature and quite nice to have something automatic. But it all seems to be working. So it will be interesting to test the speed, see what the signal noise ratio and everything is on it. But I think that's going to be another video, so I'll break this one here and say thank you for watching, and I hope you have a nice day, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.